Next up, we have Psifour. Hello, Psifour. Thanks for joining us. Psifour, if you don't mind, I want to do like a quick shout out to people, for those people who are just joining us.
Absolutely.
Psifour, yeah. I think you might have to mute your Twitter Spaces, so there's the feedback doesn't come back.
Yes, it should be muted now, is it not?
Yeah, no, it's good now. It's good now. Thank you. Okay, so let me just do quick share screen. So Psifour, you're like right in the middle of the lineup. Awesome. Thanks for showing up. Just give me like 30 seconds. Some of you who are just joining us now, this is the Bitcoin Olympics day 3. We're talking about ordinals and NFTs and Bitcoin innovations, and this is a hackathon. Today's session is designed to share with you what the Bitcoin pioneers are seeing on the frontier. Right? And hopefully this will inspire you to build some awesome stuff before the next Bitcoin halving. So if you're interested to join us on btcolympics.devpost.com, or you can scan the QR code if you're watching this visually. All right, thank you. So all right, let's bring up Psifour. Psifour, you're quite the pioneer, and you've done contribute a lot to the ordinals movement, Bitcoin in general. Can you sort of share with our viewers and our audience what your background is and what your ethos and what you're working on? Thank you.
Absolutely. First of all, that is a rough act to follow with Post, Trevor, and Patrick back to back. I'm going to do my best. Oh, and Ken. Ken was in there too. You absolutely got me behind all the best speakers, in my opinion. With that said, I've been involved with Ordinals since the very beginning of February. Prior to that, my role was as a freelance software developer, software engineer, previously working in Web3 on a play-to-earn game. You know, since then, my stances and principles have become a little bit sharper, in my opinion. And prior to that, former military. So my involvement in this ecosystem has been that my experiences have shaped who I am. And I've come to realize that the only way forward for everybody in terms of freedom of speech, as Patrick was speaking about, freedom of expression and freedom of ability to transact, will come about through cryptographic advances, specifically applied cryptography in your daily life that you don't even know is there. So like I'll speak all day to tech people about like, oh yeah, let's do this really cool cryptographic thing. But that doesn't mean anything to an end user if they can't click a button on their phone to make it go. So there's this back and forth where we're now actively working to put cryptography in the hands of the everyday user to enable them to trade monkey JPEGs or trade derivatives even. I may not be a DeFi person, but you know, there's a lot on that side that people are very excited about. And all of these pieces come together to make the world better for everybody involved. And that's kind of my overall ethos and goal in this ecosystem.
Super. Thanks for sharing that. And what are you working on right now that excites you the most in this space?
So a lot of my work has been helping or acting. I don't want to say consultant because I've specifically avoided a paid consultancy role with multiple people that have offered. But it's providing the guidance on this specific ecosystem that they may not have coming from ETH or coming from other places, just to sharpen that sword that lets them cut into the market just that little bit better than they were. My personal projects at this point is I'm working on I won't say optimized because that implies it's better. I'm working on my own personal indexer that will enable us not to store the index locally. As well as potentially share it in a trustless manner, which enables me and Post go back and forth on this, enables the ability to trustlessly have light wallets that can understand ordinals without relying on a centralized database or Explorer. And then finally, my final little project that I've been dabbling in is better coin control tools. Anybody that's used Sparrow knows it has some of the best coin control in the market, but it's got privacy optimizations that don't make sense for an ordinals ecosystem. Specifically, you have things like it shuffles your outputs when you create a transaction. That is excellent from a Bitcoin standpoint. I highly encourage it. It's excellent for privacy, When we get into the Ordinals ecosystem where order matters because of the first in, first out nature, that becomes very detrimental and can result in losses, which leads back to my point about we need to make it easy for everybody to be involved in this ecosystem.
Yeah, super. I totally agree. I mean, what would you like being on the frontier of Bitcoin innovation and tying in the things that you just mentioned? What do you think? Like, where do you see this? Like, how do you see the sustainable Bitcoin economy playing out? And how are the things that you're doing? How are the things that you're building right now are going to contribute that? And what else do you think is needed? Right. So it's like three things. It's sort of like we when we build, we sort of have this vision of where the market's going to be or where the world will be, right? And we're building towards that future, right? But we need other builders to build with us to build that future together, right? Because
Absolutely.
right. And so maybe like these three things, can you sort of like touch on these 3 points? And I think that's going to be really interesting.
Sure. So to make sure I understand the question set, you're asking kind of where I see the future, not where the future will be, but where it applies to me. What cog I feel in this glorious machine, and what cogs we're missing to really make this machine crank out some horsepower.
Yeah, I like the way you put that. Yeah, exactly. What exactly? Like how the cogs fit, well, what other cogs do we need? Like where you fit in the machine and what other cogs do we need to, right? Like increase the horsepower. That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
So I think the future is that a lot of the things we built in ways that were very efficient, very utilitarian on chains like Ethereum will come to Bitcoin and slowly adopt the ethos, culture, and tight cryptographic controls, lack of centralization. I say this all the time, and it's one of my points I say to get a rise out of people. Every contract on Ethereum is a centralized control source. So with that in mind, I want to bring all of those things you love about where you were before to Bitcoin, make them better by making them fully trustless, or at least trust minimized. Trust the least amount you can is kind of the goal in Bitcoin. You don't need to trust me. You don't need to authorize OpenSea to sell all of your assets to list one. Instead, you can sign a PSBT, and then that can be trustlessly sent out to the internet. Doesn't matter who has it. It's safe and secure. Where I fit into this is kind of making sure, how to phrase this. I go out of my way on a daily basis to both publicly say in strong terms where we're not succeeding right now or where we can make improvements. But then I couple that with constantly taking any meeting that somebody wants my opinion on how to do it better, and being much softer and more focused on the technical. How do we make your product the absolute sharpest sword it can be, the absolute most refined cog it can be? Because I want all these products to succeed. I've harassed Xverse publicly, for instance. Right now, they're, in my opinion, definitely in the top 2 or 3 wallets. Maybe the top one. There's plenty of room for that to fall back and forth very rapidly as we're jockeying for position early on in this. So that's the primary thing I'm really involved in, and then trying to make education better. Because a lot of people, I've been involved in Web3 on the ETH, Polygon, BSC side, have an education they've developed. And we have this assumption that, it's all blockchains, it's all crypto. I can use this knowledge to go into another ecosystem. And, I've already been scammed once on Ethereum, so I know what I'm doing now. And while this ecosystem is, in my opinion, slightly safer, it is just as permanent and just as dangerous if you aren't aware of what you're doing. So education is kind of my primary goal. Like I said, I want people to both know what they're doing, but I want to make it as easy as possible for them to know what they're doing. And that leads into, what can you do? Like if I had unlimited time, what I would build today or tomorrow or the next week would be things like, we brought up PSBTs. They're this kind of opaque, murky thing if you've never looked into them. But at the end of the day, they're just a contract that says, hey, I will spend this, you will spend that, we will each get this out of it, go. As long as we both agree to the terms, we both sign, and one of us broadcasts it. And that's great. Again, developer-minded folks will look at that. We'll parse the binary data into whatever library we want, and it'll work for us. What I would love to see is tools that make this process very transparent. So you load a PSBT, and instead of saying, oh, it's UTXO BC24FF, 56, it says, hey, yeah, your Bitcoin over here will get spent this exact amount and it will go here. Your inscription at address X will get sent to this address that's not one of yours, and really simplify that process to where this is an example I've used and I really love it. I want it to be easier than trading in RuneScape. We all grew up playing RuneScape. I assume most of us, games, everybody's played it at this point. I want it to be so easy to do a transaction safely, trustlessly, atomically on Bitcoin that it is easier than going into a video game and clicking trade with somebody. And we're not there yet. Again, the education tools are what needs to be improved. The wallets need libraries that provide them an easy way to parse these PSBTs and say, this is the outcome in a nice structured JSON format that they can then display to the user. We need things like the ability to better identify problems. I believe it was Ken that brought it up earlier. Every inscription that's created has 10,000 sats of postage attached to it. Safeguards need to be written into these libraries to say, let's never spend the last sat of that input because we know there's an inscription on there. And there's standardized libraries in Bitcoin that just never needed to handle these edge cases because ordinals didn't exist. I mean, PSBTs were only used for one thing prior to ordinals. Now we're using them for atomic swaps, Dutch auctions. I mean, I can't imagine what you all will be creating a week from now, a month from now. So the primary focus, though, is anything that increases the user's ability to understand in layperson terms the complex topic that we're dealing with.
Yeah, no, that is super insightful. That's super insightful. And can you speak a little bit about, let's say you build these things, right? And how would you like what do you think the reach on this is, and what are like the natural like cogs that would be related to these things, right? Like,
Sure.
how do these things like fit together?
So let's imagine that you have a wallet provider like Hero Wallet or Xverse or Unisat. In my opinion, 3 leading browser extension wallets. Specifically, I think there are others at an application layer that may be better. But if you're talking about browser extensions, those are, in my opinion, the top 3 right now. They would love to have a library they could reference. And I'm a firm believer that this is probably the best moment in history to be an open source project, because there's a large amount of funding and capitalization coming into the ecosystem. And I get that you could build an excellent company on this. And if you do, I will never judge you for that, because it's important. Companies drive the world, right? But if you make a library that these 3 wallets can turn around and go, oh yeah, this just makes our product directly better, there's employment benefits involved in that. There's potentially, name recognition benefits involved in building such a tool, as well as just the direct monetization in building it out as a SaaS product potentially. So you can make money, you can get your name out there if you're not well known in the space, and you can make the whole ecosystem better and become a part of making a better future for everybody.
I love that. I love that. So on that thought, by the way, the audience, I'm speaking to the audience now. Psifour is going to come in. Excuse me, is going to come in next week to do a technical crash course to get some of you started building on these ideas. Is that correct, Psifour?
Absolutely. I believe I will be here on the 11th at, I'll have to double check the time. I believe it's 2 p.m. PST. During that space, I would love to work with people who are interested in kind of getting the technical over, the large scale problems of how to build these out of the way. I'll bring some test PSBTs and we can like break down how PSBTs work. I am more than happy to answer questions in that space as well, about if they're related to the protocol, how to build around the ecosystem, trustlessness, any of those type of problems. Bring them to me on the 11th. We will hash them out and make your I've said it before, will make your sword the sharpest it can be to cut into the market. Whether that's your goal is to make money or make the world better, I will help you get there.
Wow. Wow, that is very valuable. Thank you so much, Psifour, for being generous with the time. And also, if I understand correctly, you've also generously put up 2 time slots, right, for the winners on this one-on-one coaching sessions. But the prerequisite is that you guys have to turn in an awesome product, and Psifour is going to help you do that.
Look, don't tell anybody I said this publicly, but if somebody brings me a product that gets me motivated, that 30-minute time slot will not probably say at 30 minutes. We'll work something out to make sure you get the absolute premier white glove help you need to make it into something that can make the world the best it can be.
All right, so to all the talented builders out there who resonated with Psifour's ethos and what he's building on right now, and how he sees all the cogs working together, go to our Discord. Well, sign up first if you haven't signed up at btcolympics.devpost.com. Go to our Discord, go to the ideas channel, and say your idea, and then Psifour is going to see that. Okay, Psifour is going to see that and start building a team. This weekend is all about getting our idea out there in the Discord channel so other peers can see it, so you can form a team. And next week we're going to hit the ground running with the technical session. All right. So Psifour, we have a few minutes here. Do you have any last encouraging words for our builders out there before we jump?
I touched on the idea of tech to layperson understanding, that education side. There's a lot to this. I mean, obviously, to do the things I'm going to be focused on, because I'm not in DeFi, I'm not in the business side. I mean, really, your last 3 speakers have covered the global, international impact of freedom of speech, the business aspect with Trevor, and the tech aspect with Post. Instead, I'm going to try to say this is more of a holistic option. You will need a dev, but you're also going to need a business person. You're going to need somebody who can understand well-written copy, maybe a PR, marketing type person. Because if you can get all of those individual cogs together and make something that I can hand to my grandma and she can read it and understand a transaction, or I can hand to my grandma and she can understand safely how to move her ordinals around, or even just her Bitcoin. I mean, this is not ordinal specific. If we can make the entire ecosystem safe enough for my grandma, that's not going to be done by people like me. Us techs are developers. We love our technology, but we are sometimes not the best at communicating with people who are outside of our sphere. We need you marketing people. We need the business people. We need the art people. We need the people who can build amazing UI UX. Again, shout out to Hero Wallet, Xverse, and Unisat. Their UI UX has blown me away. The things you can do now with a couple clicks in a mostly safe manner compared to where we were 2 months ago is mind-blowing.
Yeah, no, thank you for those inspirational words. I love that you are bringing in the business and the technical side together. Actually, to all our contestants, to all of our hackathon builders out there, that is actually hard-coded into our judging criteria, is that you don't just you don't just you can also find that in our Discord on the dev post. But yeah, half of it is definitely the technology. That's definitely a backbone, but we have to package it in a way where people could use it easily, right? So more people could use the great technology you created. So definitely when you guys are forming teams, make sure they're well-rounded. You have back-end developers, you have front-end who understand user experience and design, and get a marketing person in there, right? At least have those 3 people on your team. And that way you have the biggest chance of winning cash prizes and winning time with our mentors, our speakers, and our investors. Thank you so much, Psifour. We're right up on time here. I actually, there's a few more questions I want to ask you, but because there's only a few minutes left and I've been going for a couple hours straight here, I need to take a quick break before our next speaker comes on. But I'm really thrilled that you're supporting the Bitcoin Olympics hackathon, and we are all looking forward to your tech session next week. I'm excited. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.